Okay, so now we're picking up on, we've gotten to this point here. You've stuffed your neck, and we are picking up with round 34. And in round 34, we are going to be first getting our hook in there in place. I got a little bit of a bad angle here. One of my kids broke my tripod, so I'm going to move our stitch marker up to the next row. And I have crickets as background noise, so bear with me. In my house. So we're going to work 1 half double crochet into our first stitch. And into the next stitch. So round 34 says 1 half double crochet into next 2 stitches. So we've 1, 2, and then we're going to work an invisible decrease into the next. And then we are going to repeat this around for a total of 18 stitches at the end. And this is where it's stuffing wants to start coming out. I need to move that in and keep it out of my way. All right. So we're just going to repeat that around. We're going to work the pattern of 1 half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and then an invisible decrease into the one or the next 2 stitches following. Half double crochet. I don't have very many stitches to do here, so I might just finish this on camera, but go ahead and pause it if you've got this down, the pattern that we're doing here. You can pause it and just finish up and pick back up with us here. In round 35, we are just working, actually in round 35, 36, 37, and 38, we are just working 1 half double crochet into each stitch around. So go ahead and work your rounds from 35 through 38. Again, 1 half double crochet in each stitch around, which should leave you with a total of 18 stitches for each round. And I will meet you at the end of round 38, and we'll get going on 39. So go ahead and pause the video now and finish that up. And we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so we've reached the end of round 38. Now we're moving on to 39, and we are pretty much finishing up here with the body and head of our doll. So for round 39, we half double crochet into the next, or the first stitch, and then we do an invisible decrease into the next, and then we're just going to repeat this around. So every other stitch you do is going to be a decrease in this round. We will have at the end of round 39 a total of 12 stitches, and then 1 more round to finish off the whole deal. So I did invisible, regular, and invisible. So basically, half double crochet into 1, invisible decrease in another, in the next. Half double crochet in the next, invisible decrease in the next. So we're just going to work that around. We can probably do that right now on camera. Go ahead and pause if you want to just work it out and then come back to us. I'm just going to go ahead and speed through this. Okay. keep losing track of what I'm doing here. So we're going to end with an invisible decrease. And through our last 2 stitches there. Okay, so we have reached the end of round 39. Moving on to 40, we're just going to move that stitch marker up, and we're going to work for round 40 a complete row of invisible decreases. Now, I would stop right here and go ahead and stuff your project so that you don't have to deal. You can still stuff it after, but that's going to be a pretty tight space. I've done it, but we're better off just getting it taken care of here. And some people like to wait on this whole closing end. Someone had made a comment about how it was easier to sew on their face features without the stuffing. So that is an option as well. And actually not a bad option. Well, I've got to sew on the arms anyway. I was just thinking of maybe trying that, but no, I'm going to go ahead and complete my doll. But that is an option for you if you want to just hold off and wait to finish off your project, you know, and not stuff your head portion until the end after you've sewn on your face features and all of that. Then you can do that as well. So into the bulb of this right here, I think we've stuffed enough. I'm going to go ahead and finish off this row because I don't do well with working with stuffing at the base of my crocheting. So I will stuff the rest of that after this row. And for round, like I said, round 40 is a complete round of decreases. So all you're going to be doing is finishing this off and getting it as close to being able to close as possible on its own. So we're going to go ahead, and at the end of this round you're going to have 6 total stitches, and I'll show you how you can really close that off well. And we are coming to our end, and it is going to be a little awkward. Not as awkward as I'm making this with the camera here, but I've got one more. And we're going to come up and then up again, come through and through. So see how close we got that to being closed there? I'm going to go ahead and pull out my stitch marker because I'm not going to do any more. But I am going to add a little more stuffing. And this is where, like I said, if you're going to get everything out of your way here, if your pinky's not going to do it, you might need a hook end or something to help you stuff the rest of that. But it's not that teeny of a space, but it's pretty small when you're trying to shove stuffing in there. But you can just kind of work it on with the back of your hook. And I'll stuff this pretty good. I'll use all of this. Excuse me. And make sure at the same time that you're keeping some of that stuffing up at the top there. So we've got our Grinch head. I'd say that looks pretty right there, and I wish I could show you this in a better light, but like I said, I have a broken camera deal. Okay, so this is going to be steady. It is when it's standing, but just remember to make sure you focus on making this neck part very firm. So I'm going to go ahead and snip off a little tail here. And I'm going to grab my blunt needle that I just threw in my bag. Tail showing in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and put my hook back in. Anytime I finish a project, I will chain up one because this will help me to lock this in better there. So I'm going to go ahead and get my thread on my needle. I'm going to pull this in and show you how close we can actually get this. What I will do is when I finish with my project, something like this where I need to really close up that hole, I'm going to weave in and out through here, in and out of each of the stitches on the outer edge that you can see there. I don't know if you see that, but it's just tightening it up, really closing it up, and doing the best you can to make sure that you've completely closed that hole. So no stuffing's getting out of it. Make sure you go across a couple times and just do the best you can to make it clean and look like it's just a regular old stitch up there. So, and then I'll take my blunt needle and just kind of go around the other edge or the other round here and hide that tail even more, so that when I get finished, I'll have this long tail. However, I can just put this tail, I can just go into one of my stitches and come out another end, such as this one here, pull that through, and then I'm going to go ahead, snip it off as close as I can, pull it up a little, snip it off, and then just squish it around so it pulls that tail back in. So you never see that tail at all again. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to arms and legs. Arms and legs. So you want to go ahead and finish up your project, and I will meet you back. Hey, we are moving on to our arms, and I have really kind of a rough gig working up here. I have a broken camera tripod, so I know, go out and buy a new one, and I will be. However, at this very moment, I cannot do that. So I wanted to jump into the next video, and we have our Grinch doll, the base of our doll complete. And now we just have to look at the legs and the arms, and however you want to do your arms is fine. In my Grinch, my original Grinch, I made my arms directly onto the Grinch. Now at this point, there's no front, there's no back, it's all, you know, so just pick a side, pick a front, whatever looks like the best front to you. And I actually show you in a picture diagram how you can work your arms directly into your doll. You just need to kind of find your placement first. And I put his arms really close to his neck, the start of the neck. So how I did this is I determined kind of a circle area, because we will want to start with either a magic circle and then working 6 single crochets into the circle. We're working single crochets for this. I did a lot of switching in my stitches. This was an earlier pattern. You could definitely get away with the half double crochets, but for the 6, it might be easier to just work the single crochets. So we'll go ahead and do single. You want to go down, drop down in a hook size for this part of your project. Anyhow, how I work it in is I just go in through my doll, and I'm going to pull this yarn through So like I say, there is nothing that isn't tricky about this part. You just have to be really patient if you're going to do it this way. And I chain up one so that I have, my yarn is now attached to my doll. And I'm just going to create 6 single crochet. It doesn't have to be in a perfect circle, but I'm going to end up, my arm is obviously going to be a tube, so it will turn into a good circle. But I just go into another one that's close to it, and I pull up, I pull the yarn through and work a single crochet. So now this is going to be extremely difficult doing this in front of a camera, but you can work over your yarn. We're going to hide this tail in later, but so far I've got 1, 2, and then I'm going to come up here into another stitch area, work another single crochet. So I've got 3. And then I'm going to come to the next and work 4. See how this is kind of forming a base for me. Then I'm going to the next. Maybe. Actually, I think I will go up and get a little closer. I'll go up here, and because you can see your circle forming, so just kind of go with it till you're connected to your first, or close to being connected to your first. And then we're going to come over here and grab our last one for number 6. Okay, so if you can see this, I've created this base right on my doll, and I can start working my arm out from my base. So I will be working, my next one, I'm going to be working an increase. So I'll get back into my working yarn there. And I'm going to be going into that first one. Since it's all continuous, we're not going to chain. I'm going to go into that first one, and I'm going to work a single crochet. And then I'm going to work, 2 single crochets into that first one, because we're working an increase in the first. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to work 1. And I know I'm making this so difficult to follow. And I do apologize. It's going to be a repeat of this pattern until you have 9 stitches. So we've got 3 there. And then I'm going to work, come into this next one, I'm going to work 4 and 5, because we're on an increase now. 4 and 5. And then into the next one, I'm going to work 1. So I've got 6. And then I'm going to come to the next one. I'm going to work 2, an increase. So I've got 7, 8, and then I'm going to come over here and work 1 into this one. So for a total of 9 stitches, you can see my arm forming right from the body. Let's see if I can do it this way. But then I'm growing it out from the body, so I don't ever have to attach it. So if you can put up with a little bit of inconvenience in the beginning and just getting started, because remember, you don't have to be perfect with this. I mean, if you think about it, when you sew something onto your dolls, your amigurumi dolls, there's nothing perfect about sewing on features and getting that all in place. So for that first base, if you can just get it close to a circle of 6 stitches to start, and then work your way up. As soon as we get past a certain point here, it's gravy. And you're going to want to stuff a little more sooner on as you go to your arms. But we'll come back and I'll show you that in just a bit. Okay, so we now have a total of 9 stitches, and from here we're just going to be working continuously. We're going to work, let's see if this, hang on just a moment. We're just going to be working into 9 stitches until we get to approximately 5 inches long. So we're just literally going into the stitches we've made from here and working up in our pattern to grow our arm. So we're just going to work 1 single crochet and then come into the next stitch and work 1 single crochet. And I promise it's not going to be as difficult as this looks with me doing it through this, but just count it out. Make sure you have 9 stitches, and because you can see right there my next stitch I'm going into, if you did this right, you have 9 stitches, and you're just going to continuously go around, which is why we really don't need the stitch marker at this point, because we can just count out your stitches as you go around and make sure you're continuously working a circle with this. But it doesn't take any time at all for it to grow out to approximately 5 inches from the body. But as you can see, and I know I'm not getting this very well on video, just remember that the start of the arm perfection is so not important here, because you're not even going to notice that your circle is off or any of that when you get this completed. What's more important is that you get your arms and your legs proportionate on the body. And, you know, that's just making sure you got things in the right place and that you're staying in line with things. And you can even use like a little chalk pencil or something to kind of mark out where you want your start to be. Once you get it started, you're just growing it. So okay, so I'm going to stop right here and you can just continue on, but as you see, I'm just making this arm directly off of my Grinch body. So, you know, along the way, I'm going to go ahead and stuff it. And I'm not going to stuff it tight. So, you know, I'm just going to stuff it enough so that it holds some kind of form. And then it'll be long enough to bend the arm if you wanted to attach it and have it as kind of a prop, just kind of a fun little guy to have out at Christmas. And I'm going to let you go ahead and pause the video here. Continue with working your rows until you've reached, I would say, 5 or 6 inches, whatever you think on that. You can look at the picture and see, you know, where your arm is coming down, if that looks similar. So continue with this side, and when I've grown mine out to the correct length that I want it, then I will come back and we will move on to... Okay, so we have completed one arm, and what you want to do is just make sure that your arm is close to being 5 inches in length, which it is, and which my camera does not want to focus right now. There we go. So we've got 5 inches approximately in length on the arm, and then we can start working into our hand. But I am not, in my original Grinch and in there, I did not stuff because this was just for a decoration piece. And I just pinned his arm to his body and he had his hand coming out here. So that's really up to you. I'm not going to even bother stuffing him I don't have any little ones that are going to be playing, but if you can see this at all, you see how nicely that ends up being worked in. And then this is your tail for this, but this can so easily be hidden in underneath and around this arm. So once we have finished with the length we need, which is approximately 5 inches, we're going to go ahead and rejoin with our hook. And we are going to be working our hand. Our next round, working into the hand, is just a total increase around. So get your stitch marker in place. And you're going to work 2 single crochet into each stitch around. And it is a little tight, of course. Got such a small space we're working here. But we got 1, 2, okay, so I have 18 stitches here, and we're going to move that up to 24 in round 28 by working 1 single crochet. Go ahead and start using that stitch marker again so that you can keep track of where you're at. So we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 spaces, and then we're going to work an increase into the next. And when you've completed this, you will have a total of 24 stitches around for round 28. So the pattern is 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 spaces, and then 2 single crochets or an increase in the next. So go ahead and work this pattern of 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then an increase into the next, and work that pattern around. Repeat that around till you get to the end. You'll have a total of 24 stitches, and then we will pop back in here for around 29. Okay, so now we have completed round 28 and we're moving on to 29. This is a real simple one, but you're working with really tight stitches here. So your doll should look like this. You got a real flare going right here at the beginning of his hand. So what we'll want to do is go ahead and work round 29 with 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So just move your stitch marker up to the next round. And remember to make sure that you're on stitch count, and we're going to be working just 1 single crochet into each of these stitches around. So you'll have a total, like I said, of 24 at the end of round 29. Pause your video and I will see you at the beginning of round 30. Okay, we have reached round 30. And we are getting so close to the end of our hand. So for round 30, we are going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So I've already moved my stitch marker up, and we've got very tight working space here, folks. I know. 1, 2, and now we're going to work an invisible decrease into the next, which could be tricky. A little tricky. We're going into that front loop first, into the next, whoops, and see, it can be tricky, into our front loop for the next stitch. And this one is probably going to be worked a little slower, but we're just doing a single crochet. So for the single crochet invisible decrease, let's go ahead and work our next 1 single crochet in this stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then an invisible decrease. So for a single crochet invisible decrease, the only thing we're doing different from the half double crochet is we are not going to yarn over. So we're just going to go directly into that front loop of the first, and then we're going to come over here and pick up the front loop of the second, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through those 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through 2. So it's as simple as that. The only difference, like I said, is that you're not going to yarn over. But we're going to complete this around. You're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and then you will work in an invisible, a single crochet invisible decrease into the next, over the next 2 stitches. So not 2 of them, but just working it over 2 stitches. So go ahead and complete this round. I will meet you at the start of round 31. Okay, we are at the beginning of round 31. And in round 31, we are going to go ahead and move our stitch marker up. And we're just going to work an invisible decrease in every stitch around for this row. You will end with a total of 9 stitches. So over each set of 2 stitches, front loop only, we're going to work invisible decreases through this entire round. Like I said, you will end this round with a total of 9 stitches. We are getting really close to the end of our hand. So go ahead and finish this round. I will meet you at round 32. All right, so we've reached the last round of our hand, and we've moved our stitch marker up. For round 32, what we want to do is we want to work an invisible decrease 4 times. So we're going to go ahead and work 1. Got a tight space here. So that was 1. 2, 3, and 4, which leaves us with 1 stitch. We'll go ahead and work a single crochet into that last stitch right there, and we have completed the hand. So I'm going to chain up 1 at the end of this because this is our last, and we're going to finish this off. Now you want to go ahead and give yourself, I say, about 20 inches of yarn. Not sure exact on that, but you can add to it if you need to. Give yourself kind of a long tail. I'm going to go ahead and pull this through. I think I gave myself more than 20 inches there. Pull out your stitch marker and grab your blunt needle. So now what we're doing is working our kind of tasseled hands, the ends of those. If you're familiar with the Grinch, he's got the kind of furry fingers at the end. So we have finished our hand here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work that closed all the way. So just kind of weave in and out of this area just to make sure. Oops. grab my stitch marker. Just make sure I'm closed all the way. You can just kind of go in and out a little bit. And that's going to get worked into with your tassels. So for the tassel part, we do about 2 bunches on tassels. And how I do this is I've got my long tail and I'm going to work, I'm just going to put my needle up here through here next to where my other end of my yarn is. And I'm going to pull this through and just kind of hold your fingers out. I would say about, you know, a couple inches. Just keep your fingers as a guide. And we're going to go through it a couple more times. So you want to just leave your fingers there so that you can make sure it's an even. And we'll go through it one more time on this side. Or even a couple more times, however many times you want. Depends on how furry you want for his fingers. But we've got our first set of tassels here, or the first set that I'm going to use. And then you just come up around. I come around this bunch with my needle and thread and kind of block it off. And how I block it off is I'll go around it with my tail, and then I'll come up through the other side of that just to kind of knot it, if that makes sense, just so that I can keep those bunches separate. So I've got one set, and then I'm going to make another set of bunches over here right next to it. And I'm going to try to get that to be similar in length, right there. And we're going to do this a couple times. And you don't have to have the furry fingers, but he does. So makes for a little more realistic Grinch. So now I have a second batch of bunches here. And we're going to tie that off to make it just one piece here. So I just kind of wrap around the bunch and then go through and knot that wrap around to cluster that off more. Not as complicated as I'm making it, guys. So we've got our 2 bunches here for our hands. Okay, so at this point, you can just tie this off. I'm just going to tie it in a knot on the end to secure the whole thing to the hand itself. And then you can work this in a little bit to secure it even more. So it's, you know, the tail is worked in a little bit to the hand. And just at this point, trying to make sure that we don't have anything that comes out. And then snip that off as close as you can to his hand. All right. So this is what we have so far. Now with the Grinch, he also has just a teeny bit of black in there. So we got some black yarn. And I'm just going to cut off, because I'm only going to put one piece of black yarn into each side, into each bunch. So what I'll do is I'll grab my blunt needle again, just to wind it through. And with the black, it's going to be a little different how I do this. I'm just going to come up through one of the middle parts of the green. Whoops. Right through here in the green, up through the knot section. And I'm going to make it the length of, on both ends. I'm going to get close to the length. Okay, so I'll snip that off. And then I'm going to tie it in a knot. I'll put that up through the green. I'll put this one end up through the green so that it's kind of going through that green section. And make that even and tie it in a knot. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing to the other side here. So I've got one black. Now I'm going to take my snippers or scissors and I'm going to cut the green loops so they're now straight. Okay. And then I can cut those black ones down to straighten them out even more. But I'm going to do the same thing, like I said, to this side on this, but you can take your, I'll just show you an example of how we're doing each of these bunches. You can take your strands, and as soon as I focus in here, there we go. You can take your strands and just take your needle, your blunt needle, and just pull out your strands. That will fray it a little bit. One thing you can do is just twist it, but this takes a little longer, but it gives you a little less of a fuzzy fray there, and just kind of fray everything out. Now I'm going to finish this hand section and then I'll pop back in here so you can see the finish on this, but this is how we're working this out on each of the bunches. So just fray all of those. All right, so we have finished one of the hands, and I try to kind of keep these in bunches. These are the Grinch fingers, so you can kind of twist it around and, you know, try to get it to hold its own little separate form aside from the other bunch. However you want to do it. It can be just left either way. Now, originally, I did mention in the video, and I did intend to do some stuffing, and I changed my mind on that because mine is not going to be handled by kids and all of that. This is strictly for Christmas decoration. I'm going to use mine for. So basically what you could do is, you know, get the pose that you need for the Grinch, as I have in the picture. And you could just tack this to the body with a needle and thread. You can go underneath. It would probably be a little easier to tack it from underneath because this is pretty tough in here. But you are going to work your arm the same way, the other arm, the same exact way as we did here. I know that was tough. Remember, it does not have to be perfect. Your first 6 stitches on here just need to get you attached to the body. So if you need a fabric pencil or something that will kind of mark that area so that you make sure that you stay in a certain, you know, boundary, so that you are as close to directly across from the other arm as possible, then I would do that. And just work into the stitches in the best possible circle you can. Remember, you will end up in a circle extending your arm out. So at this point, I'm just going to have you go ahead and pause the video, work out your other arm, and if you do decide you want to stuff your arms, I would start right at about that bend line where I'm at. Just lightly stuff it, and then you can just kind of stuff it as you go down. My legs, when we get to the legs, you are going to see the other method to making your arms and legs, because I will not be working it directly onto my my body. So I will be working it with a magic circle, then 6 single crochets into the magic circle. So it's not going to be made, I'm not making it into the body. You can do it that way, but because I put the legs so, I mean, pretty close together on this, it's just easier for me. Okay, as I had mentioned before, you have 2 different ways that you can work your hands into your project, your arms into your project. And I have worked mine directly on here. Now, I had mentioned that the feet I work off of my project. So I have finished 1 foot, and you can put the fray or not. I'm not going to put the fray in mine. I did stuff my leg, and I stuffed it because I can actually prop my Grinch up and he will stand with the stuffing that I have in it. So I lightly stuff it. It's not stuffed real full, but your arm and hand are going to be almost identical, with the exception of this part. You're working it pretty much the same. However, we extend this out a little further because obviously his feet are bigger. So I'm just going to show you how I work my feet, the alternative to working it into your project, because mine I will just attach his feet to. So to get started on the legs, we are doing the same thing we did with our arms as far as the height. You want it to be approximately 5 inches long on the leg end before you start on your foot. So it's all continual rows, but because I'm working the leg off of my body, I'm going to start this with my magic circle. And I get y'all tuned in here. Okay, so in the magic circle, I wrap my yarn around once and then twice, crossing over. Then I put my hook up in between, pull that yarn through, twist my hook up. I'm going to grab this yarn over here and pull it through the loop. So I have my magic circle and I am ready to begin work on my foot. So for the foot, or for the leg, I'm going to work 6 single crochets into this circle. I won't do any chaining up, just work my single crochets in. You don't have to be extremely tight with these first single crochets. It makes it a little easier to move on to the next round. But 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 single crochets into my magic circle. Pull my tail tight, and we'll work directly into this next stitch here. So with row 2, we're going to work an increase into our first stitch. So 2 single crochets into that first stitch. Remember, work directly into the next round. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next. And we're going to repeat this until we have a total of 9 stitches. So that was 3. We're working another increase for 5, and then 1. And there's 6. So we're going to repeat this one more time, giving us a total of those 9 stitches. So an increase in the next, and then 1 single crochet into the following. So we've completed round 2. And then we're going to just work 1 single crochet in each stitch around for a total of 9. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oops, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. I've got round 3 complete. I'm going to take just a second. You want to leave a little bit of a tail. I would say several inches long, maybe 6 inches. But next what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work that tail in, and I'll show you why. As you saw, as I was working this last round, I was pushing it this way, because this is going to be my right side, and this is the wrong side. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a once around, just kind of hide that tail in through the middle round. stitches just to tighten it up, lock that in, and keep that in place. But then what I'm going to do, after I've woven that in a little bit, is I'm going to put my tail, I'm just going to put my thing through the other side, pull my tail through the other side, and now I'm going to flip it back so that I'm working with the right side out. And the reason this is here is it's going to be the tail I use to sew my leg on to my Grinch doll. So once you've completed that, you don't have to worry about dealing anymore with the tail or for any of this coming undone because we've locked that in place. So now what we're going to do is moving on to round 4. We're going to continue working 1 single crochet into each stitch around just like we did with the arms. And you're going to work this the same as you worked your arm pattern. So go ahead and work this. I've already, like I said, I've already worked my 1 foot, and I'm going to let you go ahead and grow your leg until you reach your 5 inches in length. And once we have reached that point, we will be moving on to round 27. I show in the pattern that this was about 24 rounds for me. So I worked about 24 rounds to reach 5 inches. So we will get to round 27 and I will pop back into the video and we'll finish off our foot. So now we've finished the length of our leg, which measures out to approximately 5 inches, like I mentioned. Almost spot on there. And we are moving into round 27. For round 27, we are going to be working an increase into each stitch around. So we're going to go ahead and throw our stitch marker on now, because now we want to keep track of what we're doing here. And we're going to work 2 single crochets into each stitch around. So we'll have a total of 18 stitches once we've completed round 27. I'm going to go ahead and do this on camera real quick. And just make sure here. 4, 6. Okay, so now we have a total of 18 stitches. We'll go ahead and place our stitch marker in our next round. Then for round 28, we are going to work 1 single crochet into our next stitch and then into the next stitch. So for the first 2, we're going to work a 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and then we'll increase in the next. When we completed round 28, we will have a total of 24 stitches. So moving, we're going to repeat that pattern around. 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and 2 single crochets. So 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 2 single crochets in the next stitch. And like I said, you'll have 24 at the end of this round. Just repeat this around. Pause this if you need to. I'm just going to finish up here so we can move on to the next round. All right, so now we've reached the end of round 28. We're going to move our stitch marker up for round 29. We will just work one single crochet into each stitch around. So just one in each of them. You'll still have 24 at the end of this round when you've completed round 29. And go ahead and pause the video, work that around, and I'll pop back in here at the beginning of round 30. So at the end of round 29, we will have something that looks like this. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move our stitch marker up and begin round 30. For round 30, we are going to be working one single crochet into the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to work an invisible decrease over the next 2. So remember, you're coming in the front loop only of 1, and then the front loop only of 2, and then pulling through, and then working a single crochet as usual. So we're working one single crochet, one single crochet, and then an invisible decrease. And you're going to repeat this around. At the end of round 30, you're going to have a total of 18 stitches. Just continue to do this around. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, so now we are coming to the end of round 30. We will have 18 stitches here at the end of this round, and then we are moving on to round 31. Place that stitch marker up there, and you're going to work one single crochet into each of your 18 stitches around. I know I keep slipping out of this, and I apologize. I work these really tight, and you probably end up doing the same thing because it's just really a small quarters, and you don't want any stuffing. If you do decide to stuff any of the foot or the legs, you want that all to be kind of hidden in. So what we're doing for round 31 and round 32 is we are working just one single crochet into each of the 18 stitches around. So let me just go ahead and get this finished. This is just round 30. Sorry, that's round 31. So for round 32, you're doing the same exact thing. Just go one single crochet in each of your stitches around for a total of 18 stitches, and I will meet you at the end. All right, everyone, we have completed round 32, and now we are doing another decrease round. Pull that stitch marker up to the next round, and we are beginning round 33 with one single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So we're working one single crochet into 1, one single crochet into 2, one single crochet into the 3rd stitch, one in the 4th stitch, and then we're working an invisible decrease over the next 2 front loop onlys. Oh, I don't want to miss that little strand. Okay. And then we're going back and repeating again one single crochet in the next 4 stitches. 3, 4, and I know I'm going out of focus here, I'm sorry. And then one in the next, over the invisible decrease, and then over the next 2. Okay, so we're going to do one single crochet, 2, 3, 4, And then we're going to work our invisible decrease over the last 2 stitches there. Okay, here we are. And for round 34, go ahead and pop that stitch marker up to your next round. We're just going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 15. So 1, 2, and 15. All right, so we've completed round 34, and round 35, move that stitch marker up. We're decreasing again in this round. We're going to work 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to work a decrease. And then we're repeating that pattern, working 1 crochet in the next 3, and then a decrease. Oops. All right, we'll work that one more time. So 1 single crochet in each of the next 3, 2, 3, and then we'll end with a decrease over the last 2 for a total of 12 stitches in this round. So we end round 35 with 12 stitches. Moving on to round 36. We're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 12 stitches around. So just 1 single crochet in each stitch around for round 30. Okay, at the end of round 36, we still have 12, and then we're going into a decrease round again. This will bring us back down to our 9 stitches that we started with. So for this one, for this round, round 37, we're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then work an invisible decrease over the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to make our decrease. And then we're going to repeat that 2 more times. There's 1, 2, and then a decrease. There's 1, oops, 2, it's getting tight, and a decrease over our last 2. Okay, so now we have 9, and you're going to work 1 single crochet in each of these stitches. You'll move your stitch marker up, and you'll work 1 single crochet in each of your 9 stitches around for the next 2 rounds, and then I'll pop back in. So we've worked our 2 rounds of 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 2 times with 9 stitches total for each of those rounds. And then our final round for 40 is going to be working an invisible decrease over the next 4, or it's going to be 4 times you're going to work an invisible decrease. So over the next 8 stitches, then you'll end with 1 single crochet in the last stitch. So go ahead and do that, and well, actually we'll go ahead and work this out here. We're just going to work an invisible decrease 4 times. There's 1, if you've got this, you can just pause the video. But then we've got 2. And then our 3rd decrease. Oh, you can actually pull out your stitch marker now. We got 3. Should be able to keep track of this okay. And 4. And then in your last stitch, you'll just work 1. So go ahead and finish that, and then you can just meet up with me, pause your video, and I will see you in just a bit. We'll go ahead and move into adding our tails to our body. Okay, so we've reached the end of our foot. It looks like this, kind of like a serving spoon. And wherever you have your foot bending out, just remember that's going to be the top of your foot. So I show it bent in the picture, and I did all of that for the photo, but if I basically don't have any kind of pipe cleaner or anything that causes this to bend. I just kind of position things for my photos, and however you want to position your Grinch, if it's just going to be a doll for a child or whatever the case, you can do that however you like. So sewing on parts to our animals are always a painful process. You kind of want to get things in position, and I'm going to see, I have some yellow yarn out here for the next part of this, but I'm going to pull this back a little bit and see if I can get this to show up better all around. Alright, so we have our doll, and he's a little bit discombobulated right now because I haven't tacked anything down. I haven't done any of that part of it. I just want to show you some quick and simple tips to getting things sewn on. First, we want to position, we are looking head on at our Grinch doll right now. We want to position our legs however we're going to have those, and you're going to put basically right in the middle part here is where your legs are going to go. You can go out just a little bit if you like, but just right in that general position, right in the middle of that bottom part. And what I always do when I'm sewing on parts, like I said, there really isn't an easy method to doing this. Some people find it very easy, but I just kind of go into pieces around, like towards the inside of where my leg's going to be, and I pull through a part of my leg as well so that I get it attached and pull that through. So I have my leg actually attached to the doll. However, it's not attached real secure. It is attached, but you're just going to kind of weave in and out of your doll and just pick up a stitch here and there, and then right underneath a stitch from the body itself. You're going to have to kind of turn things as you go just to kind of get that in place. Once you do that, you can do, there's not really a simple whip stitch to do around on an amigurumi because you're dealing with a lot of fluff and stuff. But if you have a way to just kind of go under, I'll grab that same stitch again. I would pull it through one part of the body, and then I would come up and go into your actual leg or body part that you're sewing on, and then pull that until you get it into a position where it's pretty secure and it's not flopping around a lot, because that is where that's where you're able to make it a little less chaotic looking. But you're really just going around and getting it in place the best you can all the way around your doll. And I'm just going to do a couple more here, but then we're going to move on to the eyes, because I will let you just get your stuff sewn on. This tutorial is definitely not going to be the best, is not going to be a way or about the best way to sew on your amigurumi parts, because for me, it's just doing the best I can. And then I will clean it up by going you know, in and out of closer. That first part that I do is just to get it secure to the body, but then I'll start coming under and then up here, under and then up, and I'll go around in a more secure fashion around. So that's why you want to leave yourself enough tail to do this. You know, give yourself a good 6 to 8 inches even, and then you'll have your you'll have enough to start doing what you need to do on that end. So now we're going to go ahead and jump into making your eye, and you want a good yellow color for his eyes. They're almost an evil eye. And we're going down in hooks. I am going to use an E-hook. It's very simple. For your slip stitch, you're just going to cross your yarn over like that and put the back side of the yarn right up the back of that loop. You can stick your hook right in there and pull it. You've got a slip stitch. It's that easy. And we're going to work 5 chains, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, we are going to work 1 single crochet into the 3rd, 4th, and 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stitches, chains from the hook. So 1, 2, we're going to work the 2nd, 1 single crochet. We're going to work the 3rd, 1 single crochet. If I can pick that all up. And the 4th, we're going to work 1 single crochet. I made one of these in the D hook, and it's really, really, really smaller than what I had before. I'm not sure why I came up with the size I did for the D. But in that last chain, you're going to have 1 chain left, and in that last chain, we're going to work 4 half double crochets. So we're going to work 1, 2, yarn over, pull through, and pull through all 3. 3 and 4. Alright, so then we're going to go ahead and work our tail in on the way back. We're just doing the same thing. We're going to work 3 single crochets, and then we're going to join. So just come into this next stitch and work a single crochet. In the next stitch, working over your tail, we're going to work a single crochet. And into our last stitch, we're going to work a single crochet, and then we're going to join right to that top of that first single crochet that we made in the beginning of the round. So just join right there, and then we're going to go ahead, chain 1 just to finish off here. We're going to leave a little bit of a tail. I would leave about 6 to 8 inches of your tail to sew on your eye. And we'll pull it through and pull it tight where you did that last chain there. Alright, so this is what we have for our eye. You can do a measurement to your doll and see how close you're going to be, and it's perfect. Perfect size. We're going to have 2 of those. So go ahead and pause your video and make your second one. And then I'll meet you back here for the next part, which is getting a little artsy. Okay, friends, now this last part, I really can't teach you. I can go ahead and show you how I do a couple of things here. First, before I jump in, because I am doing another tutorial on the neck piece. I do have one that I had made up, but it is kind of an old one, and I'd like to get some better lighting on that. But I can show you how I do the top tuft of his head. It's the same way that we did his hands, only you're going to be starting a new piece of yarn in there. So if you didn't leave already a good sized tail, which I did not, but for the remaining pieces, all of his features are sewn on. There's no crochet to the rest of this. It's strictly taking a piece of black yarn and getting as close to you can to the features on his eye as you can. Oops. So I have a yellow, one of my eyes that I've done. And the rounder part, this part right here where the knot is going to be the outer part. This will be the inner part of his eye. But basically all I'm doing at this point is making it more of an eyeball. You know, with his, let's see if I can get through. I like to get pretty detailed with things here. So I'll be coming up and working into these spaces to fill in any gaps for myself. It's just about doing the best you can to make it look more like an eye. And his eye has kind of this, I don't know, crab claw looking detail to it. So it's just going in and out. Remember, you're going to be sewing this piece on. So we're going to come back in towards our black. And then back up here to kind of make that all come together better. I got a little rounder than I did with my first Grinch. It is supposed to be more of a V. So I'm going to try something new here since I got that way. See if I can kind of, actually that's kind of a good look. I like that. But I don't have to keep it that way. I can kind of go over this again, which I think I will. Just make it stand out a little more. Come back up the same corner that I started that second one in, and then just work down into that last edge right there. And so it's just pretty much, you just are getting creative with things. And if I see a little too much yellow somewhere, I'll come back in and fill it, because nobody's going to notice this part. And it's just about getting it the best you can. I actually love how that one turned out, but I'm going to come to the back of this and go ahead and just tie a knot on my tail. I don't need to do anything with that because this is going to all be sewn from behind. So I'll tie a knot and I'll clip that one, actually both of them, because I'm not going to be sewing on this black part. So I'll clip both of these black pieces away. And there's my first eye. So if I take my Grinch doll and test it out there, I think it's going to look good. Yeah, it's going to look really good. Okay. So I'll just have to make sure to do this the same on the other side, if I can. And then it's about making the eyebrows. I literally stitched his eyebrows and his mouth in, guys. So you'll see all of this, and this is all just working my yarn and making his smile and making his eyebrows. Okay, and then when it comes to that top tuft in his hair, the next time you see me, this is all going to be done here. But for that top area where it's got that nice little tuft sticking up, what I'll do is just go ahead and get your yarn piece right there. And just, you know, I would just clip off about 24 inches, however long you want. And then we're just going to be literally coming in, go to the front of your doll so that you know where you're at. and just come through like that top part right there. Actually, I'm going to go back a little more. Just a little. And I'm coming through just that top part. I'm going to pull my yarn all the way down to where I can just quickly tie off a little knot to secure that in place. I'll pull it up a little further so that I can use that. And then I'm just going to tie them on there to secure my yarn. And I don't even have to cut that tail off. If I leave this long enough, I can use that with the rest of it. Whoa. I can use it with the rest of it. So I will just go through like I did with all of my other works and on the tuft areas. And I'll just go back and forth, go through again, and use my finger as a guide for however long I want that tuft to be. I'll say about there. And then from there, I'm just going to be doing them all. I'm going to be coming back through, pulling another one until I have as much hair as I want for his top of his head. So we're just kind of guiding it, and I do a few of them, but I won't finish all of this hair in the top. You'll see my finish when I come back in after I completed. But it's so easy, and you're making tufts that are going to be in place for I think I'll stop there. And then you're going to want to work in one black one. So what I do anytime I'm done with one of the bunches, I just come around that whole deal to kind of rope it all in together. And I'll pull that tail up there too, so it's a part of it. But I'm just coming around, wrapping my yarn around, and then I'm going to come in under that loop so I can pull it tight into almost a knot to just make it a little more secure. It's really secure in there, but we'll make it really secure. All right, and then we can do it one more time just to actually create a knot. Come up through that same deal somewhere in there and actually make a knot from that. Not sure what I just did there, but that's just fine. And then I'm going to clip it, and I'll clip a part to go up there. And then again, I'm just cutting these like this, and you don't even have to make these even at all. You just don't. Just all of this is in place now. Remember to get a black yarn through there so you can do some shading in, and untwist each of these little strands of yarn and unravel them. So I'm going to go ahead and part ways with you for just a little bit. If you want to pause your video, finish your features and all of that, when you press play again, I'm going to have a completed doll. Okay, so now we are going to move into this neck piece. And hopefully this will be better than the first video I did on it. For the neck piece, you've seen now how I do the bunches, but we're just going to go ahead and create our slip knot, working with a G-hook. And this neck piece is made detachable, so that if you do have a young child playing with the doll, that you can take it off, because I wouldn't think that would be very safe. So we're going to chain 20 to 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And this is definitely enough to go around the neck. I'm going to fit it around. But I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more right there, right? Just for that buttonhole that I'm going to add on there. So once we've crocheted as long as we need, we're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook and every other chain following. So just go into that second chain and we're going to single crochet across. And do that all the way down the line. All right. This is actually a really, other than the tassels, the unraveling of the tassels that you have to do, this is actually very simple and pretty quick. Okay, so we have single crocheted down our line here. In the last chain, we're going to work a slip or single crochet, and then we're going to follow that with a slip stitch in the same chain. And we're going to leave a small tail. Now, I did this very simple buttonhole in my last, but one way that you can do the buttonhole is you can come up, I would say 1, 2, 3, come up to 3, maybe 4, depending on how big your button is. I'm going to leave it at 3, and then I'm going to come right into this and slip stitch right there. So I've just created a little buttonhole. If you have a bigger button that you're going to use, just go ahead and chain up one more time before you slip stitch there. But now that we've slipped, we're going to go ahead chain one up, and that's just to place our knot. And actually, at this point, pull yourself a long tail. Quite a long tail. And I mean, give yourself something to work with, but don't make it so inconvenient either, because you can add on to your tail. Just pull this through and lock it up there. Now you've got your buttonhole on one end, and you're going to place your button on the other end over here. So you can really work from either side of this. I'm going to work over here, and then just take your blunt needle, get this long tail hooked in. Like I said, you don't want this to be real inconvenient, and the long tail that I did might be pretty inconvenient, especially with the camera here. So we're going to take our project here, and we're working into these top loops right here for his little collar. What we're going to do is we're going to work one, then we'll skip the next and work the next, skip, work. If you want to have less of a tassel, you can skip and work every other 2 stitches. So we have our long tail coming off here. I'm going to clip our short tail a little bit because we're just going to hide that tail and get rid of it so it's not in the way, or you can use it as a part of your first tassel. So we've got our blunt needle in place. And what we want to do, so our tail is coming up from here, we want to come up into this first loop right here. If you see that, just come right up into that first loop. And then we're going to pull our strand. We're going to use our thumb to kind of measure out that piece and how long we want our tassel. So I'm going to say maybe about 2 inches there. and we're going to go up 2 more times in that one stitch. So you want to use your thumb as that marker for all of that throughout. Make this easier on you. So we do it one more time, and we're going to do it just once more. And I'm only going to do a couple here on this screen, and then I'll let you go ahead and finish up yourself. But then I'm going to just come behind the whole bunch, and I'm going to take this yarn and wrap it, the whole wrap around that batch, so that we can just kind of keep these in bunches, and then come up through the start of that wrap that we just did. Let me see if I can do this without confusing, so that we can kind of make a knot around that bunch. All right, there we go. So we've just bunched off our first patch of this, okay? And it does, I mean, if you want to, you can do that one more time, but you can make these all different lengths too. You can make them longer. You can go around one more time even if you feel more comfortable to keep them more in bunches. Just wrap around your whole bunch again, and then come up through that loop so you can lock it off. All right, so we've got our first bunch in place. We've got our buttonhole here, our first bunch in place here. We're going to skip the next 2. So we're going to go 1 and then 2 into this next one right here. And what we can do is just kind of weave over to that point so that we don't have long strings showing through. And just weave over and then come up into the next loop for our next bunch. Now, when it's unraveled, it's gonna flare out a little more. So it's okay if you want to skip every other 2 like I'm doing. And it saves you a little time. But if you make some of them longer, like maybe every other batch you make just a little longer than the, you know, just make every other batch the same size and then one batch a little longer, then you're gonna have a nice uneven kind of choppy fray, which I think will look a lot better. We're going to come up one more time into that loop, and we're going to make sure we're still on that same track, and then we're going to wrap around that whole batch again because we got a new bunch that we just worked, and come through that loop, so we can make, I know I'm making that look confusing, but all I'm doing is wrapping around it to bunch it, to clamp it off like that. So all of your stuff, all of your band is actually down here. All of your loops are coming down from here. And like I said, if you make your every other batch this size and every other batch this size, and you'll have this nice real jaggedy neck piece for him. It'll look great. But then all you're going to do is the same thing we did before, because I'm just going to show you quickly. And we are just going to take a piece of our black, because we're just doing this for shading throughout these little areas. Just come up through the middle of each batch with one black strand. All right, so just come back in through here and try to make it the same length as your other bunch. That's good. And then I'll clip it off a little lower because we're going to tie it, but just come in between. So we have a couple, just go in between these and tie a knot to hold that black in place. Just tie both ends of the black together a couple times so that you got a black incorporated in there as well. So when we finished with that, I'm just showing you this one batch right now. When we finished with each batch, we're going to come back through, put our loops together in our greens, and we're going to snip that. Like that. Okay. And then, like I had shown you on the other, all you're going to do is, and this is where the time comes in, the kind of painfulness of it all. Just twist, whoops, twist this until your strands are straight. You can kind of like give it some slack there to see. And you're just going to kind of, you can take your blunt needle and just pull away the frays. Like that. And you do that actually with each of your strands. But once you do that, you have a great neckband. So go ahead and do this down the whole line here. Then you're going to sew your button on here. And when I've completed this, I will come back. I've already completed my Grinch doll. So this is the neckband, is the last piece of this puzzle. So I will see you in a little bit. Take your time and really make this cool. Okay guys, our Grinch doll is complete, and he's sitting in his chair here. But we've got his little neck piece all set and his face in place, and he's looking good. The only thing this Grinch is missing is a heart. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial today. I hope it's helped in your making of your Grinch doll. I know this one's a little bit off in some areas, but all around he's pretty cute. I did end up tacking his arms on. They're in place in his stance. But if you have any comments or feedback, or if you have any questions on the pattern, please comment below. I'll be happy to answer and get back with you. And if you'd like to share your makeup of the Grinch, would love to see it. Please come over to our group at Facebook, and that is at facebook.com/groups/yarnwars, where you will find an amazing and talented group of people, a great community to hang out with, lots of support over there. And of course, come over to the website at yarnwars.com. You click on free, you'll find lots of free patterns by me. And subscribe to this video if you like it. You can just push the button below, and there are lots of new free patterns that are going to be coming soon your way. Thanks so much, and have a great day.